Okay, I think 3 minutes past the hour. I think we can start. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Marco Calmazzini. I'm here with the rest of my colleagues and my manager. Uh, Alex Goldblack is going to present the second part of this session on what's ahead. I will present the 2021 in review, what we did in the last year and the update we brought to our products. And Tim Chin and Kelly Smith are also available, and they will answer your questions in the chat. So if you have any question, please click the Q&A button and ask your questions there. So as we're saying, we'll start with 2021 in review, what we did last year. We brought some improvement on the enterprise manager side, improving fleet management, the ability to manage large database fleets on onboarding them on the recovery appliance. The other updates we brought to the recovery appliance are improved replication capabilities with what we call backup and recovery anywhere, immutable backups, ability to create immutable policies so that you can adhere to regulatory compliance requirements and also take advantage of these capabilities for ransomware protection and improving the cyber vault architecture on when you want to protect from ransomware. We also had new hardware releases, a new recovery appliance model, and then we will talk about what's ahead with Alex. So in 2021, we continued to expand our installed base across all the 5 continents. We are now more than 2 exabytes of protected databases across all the industry, leading financial services especially, but also semiconductor, insurance, utilities, transportation, really any industry can take advantage of protecting their databases through the recovery appliance, especially through the well-known capabilities of the recovery appliance on eliminating data loss, providing real-time transaction protection, and taking advantage of that for ransomware protection and regulatory compliance when immutability is required. The recovery appliance can provide database or guarantee database recoverability through continuous backup validation and protection monitor, real-time protection monitoring, right? That you can see at any time the status of your database protection. It reduces infrastructure utilization through incremental forever and compression. So the backup overhead is eliminated from your servers, your storage, your network, because you're only doing incremental backups. And it provides a resilient architecture. It's an integrated, highly available hardware and software platform. It's based on the Exadata platform and can scale horizontally. We will see in a moment what it means. So starting with the updates on the enterprise manager side, we added earlier in the year on Enterprise Manager 13.4 database read-only access to the recovery appliance console. This gives the DBAs the ability to access the console through Enterprise Manager and see and have a view of what the database status protection is, gather reports, see various database protection related metrics without the need of giving them administrative privileges on the recovery appliance, maintaining separation of duty. So you have the recovery appliance administrator, which is different from the DBA. The recovery appliance administrator obviously have read access and write access, can change the configuration and manage the recovery appliance. But the DBA can only see what's going on from a database. They can only do backups and restore, but nothing more than that. We added a system activity BI report. Previously, the activity report was only available through the CLI, and it was just a text file. Now it's also available among the other recovery plans reports in BI, and it gives also, it automatically highlights areas that may need further investigation of attention. And this example here, you see, you have some protected database, some databases that are exceeding the unprotected window threshold, so they are highlighted here. So when anything is to be, it requires administrator attention, then they are highlighted automatically. The array monitoring template provides a preset metrics and thresholds that can be used. This is based on our MAA best practices and what I gather from the experience of all the customers we have around the world, and it's now available for everyone to use as a template. And lastly, what I was mentioning in the introduction, EMCLI, it's a command line tool that can be used to script the onboarding of large database fleets. Customers that have hundreds of databases are not required to go through the console and then click thousands of times to onboard each database individually through the console. This EMCLI tool can be used, and so everything can be scripted and automated to speed up the process of onboarding databases to the recovery appliance. Another thing we did earlier in the year when the recovery appliance 19.2.112 software was released was to dramatically improve, I would say, the replication capabilities on the recovery appliance. We introduced what we called backup and recovery anywhere. It's a way of preserving operations during both planned and unplanned outages. In this example here, you see, 2 data centers, 2 recovery appliances, 1 in each data center, and databases, each data center backing up to their local recovery appliance. You can enable a bidirectional database-aware backup replication. So each database continues to back up to their local recovery appliance, but the backups are synchronized across the replication link. So they are replicated to the remote recovery appliance. And it's not just backup data replication, it also includes catalog replication. So each of the 2 recovery appliances has the up-to-date information on the protection on each database on both sides. This gives the ability to basically decide and switch the backup destination easily at any time, and that can be done obviously automatically in case of the missing, right? In case of one of the recovery appliances goes missing, goes down, again, both for planned or unplanned reasons. And again, this is possible because the catalog information is up to date on both sides. And this means that also from both sides, you can also initiate restore. So, sorry, at any time, if an appliance goes down, both the incremental backups and the redo transport can be redirected automatically to the other recovery appliance without losing any data, without losing the capability of restoring if needed, and obviously maintaining the continuous time protection. With regular or normal backup or recovery solution, this would be impossible, I would say, again, because you can replicate the backup data, but you don't have this catalog also replicated. So if you start backing up to the alternate recovery appliance, Armand would not know where to start from. Just to make it simple. Later in the year, we introduced Recovery Appliance 21.1 software version. It was, a huge software version packed with a lot of new features. The most relevant one, I would say, is the ability to support immutable backups. Immutable backups are backups that cannot be deleted or altered until the predefined retention time has expired. You know that the recovery appliance has this so-called recovery window goal that you define to determine the retention time, to determine how back in time you want to be able to restore. And this is a window goal. It's always been a window goal on the recovery appliance. It means that if there is no more space left in the recovery appliance, that window goal can be shrinked, can be reduced to make space for new backups, to accept new backups. With the new 21.1 version, there is an additional recovery window compliance, so-called parameter that can be defined, and that is a fixed retention time. So it's not a goal anymore. If it's set to, say, 2 weeks, it means that recovery plans will guarantee that you have 2 weeks of recovery window that you can go back to. And if there is no more space on the recovery appliance, the priority is to maintain a guarantee that you have those 2 weeks available. So it means that in that case, new backups will not be accepted because there is no space. This is done to be able to satisfy regulatory compliance rules like the SEC 17A and other that are in the financial world, but in general, all the regulatory compliance rules that mandate this type of immutable backup retention. It can also be leveraged to protect against ransomware attack because it provides an additional level of security for your backups again, malicious attempts to alter that by, for example, reducing the retention window, so forcing the recovery plans to purge backups. And so that's not going to happen anymore because backups kept when a certain recovery window compliance is defined are retained no matter what, including reduction of the retention time on the policy. When immutable backups are configured, when the recovery appliance is configured in compliance mode, arm and delete commands are rejected. Okay, so no one can delete backups. As we'll say, the priority is guaranteeing that backups are kept on the recovery appliance. It also disables SSH, RACs, and root access. So the low level, I would say, administrators, users are disabled, and SSH access is also disabled. Individual admin users are still available. They are named users, so they are not root or RACs anymore. They're named users, and all the activities done by this named admin user are logged. If for patching, maintenance, or other reasons, root access or RACs access is required, then it can be enabled based on a quorum. So one of these named users can request access and can request these privileges to be allowed to log in as root or RACs, and 2 other administrators must approve this request. If the request is approved, then root access can be used for a period of time. If it's not approved, obviously that's not possible. I want to add about compliance and protection from ransomware and cybersecurity, etc., that the backups stored in a covered appliance are stored in a proprietary block pool format. They are not in the file system. So no one even accessing one of these users accessing the recovery appliance can really see the backup pieces on a file system. That's not possible. And also this block pool is basically not only inaccessible but also impossible to understand what's in there, because the information must be combined with the catalog information, and without the catalog, it becomes really impossible to gather any information from there. Another improvement we brought with 21.1 is the archive to cloud. Archive to cloud is the ability to offload backups from a recovery appliance and send them offsite in the OCI object storage. We added the ability of also using the same type of interface to store those backups on a ZFS appliance on premises. Then it works exactly in the same way. All backups are encrypted when sent to OCI public cloud or to the OCI object storage interface on a ZFS storage appliance. So Oracle Key Vault must be used, and Oracle Key Vault requires an additional license. It's also a key manager, and that guarantees that the keys are stored outside of the recovery appliance. So in case you, for some reason, lose the recovery appliance, you don't also lose your keys, preventing you from being able to recover from those backups, because those backups are in a standard ARM format. So they can be restored even without the recovery appliance. But obviously, you need the encryption keys to be able to do that. That's the reason why we want you to store the encryption keys on an external key manager. And you have to take care, obviously, of making up those keys and make sure that they are available if you want to be able to do that. Both these destinations, OCI object storage and the object storage interface in ZFS, gives you the ability to use regulatory compliance buckets, so immutable buckets or worm-like buckets. You can attach retention policies to those buckets and make them immutable. So what you store in the bucket cannot be deleted or altered for a certain period of time. And those policies can be locked. So no one, not even a tenancy administrator in OCI or a ZFS administrator, can change those policies, or at least cannot delete the policy or reduce the retention time. They can still change them by extending the retention time, but they cannot shrink them and delete objects from the bucket before the retention time is expired. Putting it all together, the recovery appliance, right, through transaction protection, immutability, and the cyber vault architecture, becomes the best optimized protection from ransomware and other cybersecurity threats for the Oracle database. So what happens? You continue doing the traditional, well-known continuous protection to the recovery appliance or real-time transaction protection through real-time redo transport. So the redo information is transferred in real time to the recovery appliance from the protected database. Memory directly goes to the recovery appliance, and you continue doing incremental forever backups to the recovery appliance. But those backups cannot be stored in this immutable format. And in this example, you can define like 14 days of recovery window, and they are also now protected by this additional hardened infrastructure with no root access, no admin access at the low level. Only audited admin users are allowed. Separation of duty is in place. DBAs, database administrators, are different from the recovery appliance administrator. DBAs cannot delete backups because delete commands are rejected from the recovery appliance. So backup are secured in the recovery appliance. On top of that, replication to a cyber vault through the cyber vault architecture can be leveraged. So in this example, you see on the right side, cyber vault with the recovery appliance, where also the ZFS, local ZFS on-premises appliance can be used with immutable bucket for an additional level of protection or for long time protection. And the connection between the recovery appliance, the main data center where the recovery appliance is located, and the cyber vault is normally disconnected. You can use firewall rules. You can physically disconnect it from the network if you prefer. But the idea is that that's the vault. That's the place where there's no access normally during the day, during regular hours. It's only open for a short period of time during the day, also at random times some customers are doing. So that replication can go through. Only incrementals and redo logs are transferred, and then the connection can be removed again, and the cyber vault becomes isolated again. Alternatively, or an additional in an additional way, you can also send backups to OCI object storage, where also you have the ability of using immutable buckets, as I was mentioning before. So you can have backup stored offsite on a system that is only accessible through proprietary APIs. You can limit access to that also at the IP level if you want, so you can only have one IP allowed to access the bucket where the data are, and retention rules can be defined. So it's another way, if you want, of having an additional level of protection. And the well-known recovery appliance validation works across all the different steps. So backups are validated when they are taken on the database, they're validated when they are stored on the recovery appliance, when they're processed in the recovery appliance, and when they are replicated. If you replicate into a recovery appliance or cyber vault, they are validated once again when they reach the cyber vault recovery appliance, and when they are virtualized locally in the cyber vault. So any attempt to maliciously alter the Oracle data in an Oracle database block, which is basically all we move during these different steps, would be caught, because the validation of each individual block that we do at any of these steps would be able to identify that. Okay. In terms of hardware, we now release RA21. With this release, we changed our traditional naming of the recovery appliance hardware platforms that was following exactly in the Exadata naming. So the previous generation was X8M, as you see here. And now we are moving away from that. Recovery appliance will be named with its own naming convention, which is the one you see here. RA21 is what we released in 2021. The next one will probably be 2022 if we release it this year. The RA21 is provided 30%, or provides, now it's still the current one, 30% increased capacity compared to the previous X8M. A base right now support 207 terabytes of backup capacity. It's 2 petabytes of virtual full backups with a 15 terabytes hour restore rate. Each individual storage server that can be added provides an additional 70 terabytes of capacity. Full rack can be can go up to 18 storage servers. That translates to more than 1.26 petabytes in capacity, or 13 petabytes of virtual full capacity. We are assuming still right there, kind of 10-to-1 ratio here. On a full rack, restore rate would also go up to 24 terabytes per hour. We also reduced the price of the base rack with the RA21, and now bringing the recovery plans cost now to 50 to 80% less per protected terabyte compared to other traditional common backup appliances on the market. Here in terms of scalability, what I was mentioning, the base rack starts at 207 terabytes in capacity. It's 2 compute nodes and 3 storage server. This is the base building block of the recovery appliance, and it provides 15 terabytes an hour in terms of restore rate. Each storage server, additional storage server, provides 70 terabytes of capacity, and you can have up to 18 in a single rack. So you add 1, 2, 3, whatever, how many you need, up to 18. 9 storage servers is what we call a half rack. It's 627 terabytes and 24 terabytes hour restore rate. And the maximum on a single rack is 18 storage server, 1.26 petabyte of capacity, and 24-hour restore rate as well. At that point, you're gonna hit the network limit. You can expand it with additional racks that you can cross connect. So once you reach the maximum capacity, you can add another base rack and start filling it up as needed. An additional base rack means that you are going to add 2 more compute nodes and 3 more storage cells, and then you can add other storage cells, storage servers as you need. So this will expand not only the network capacity, but not only the storage capacity, but also the network ports, the network interfaces, and compute capacity in general for the recovery plans to be able to manage and process more data. You can, in theory, expand up to 18 racks. That's the maximum. It's 36 compute servers and 324 storage servers, 22 petabytes usable capacity, and 432 terabytes hour restore rate. So it's a massive amount of data to move. The recovery appliance can also be expanded in certain consideration even before you reach the maximum capacity of the first rack. Okay. I think that's all I have for the year in review and what we did in 2021. So I'm now handing it over to Alex that will cover what's ahead. So please, Alex.
Thanks, Marco. So now we're gonna switch gears and just to start looking what's ahead, and so where the recovery plans overall gonna move in the near future. And what I'd like to do is just not to talk about what is gonna be happening in a sense of the roadmap, but actually trying to present a compelling picture to put it all together and just to connect the dots. So you got to be able to articulate to your customers what are the improvements and actually why we start moving in the direction that we decided to go to. And from the historical perspective, obviously you have 2 data sources. So that's always been problematic. One is the actual protected databases. Another one is the actual file system that should be protected. And it's always been a struggle in the legacy world. And I came from the background working for companies like Veritas and Dell EMC. It's always been problematic because snapshot management was not really adequate. Data protection, snapshot cannot protect anything. It's not a backup to start with. And so we invented Armin, which is basically kind of a client-server ecosystem that allows you to actually put some sort of efficiency. The problem with Armin that it basically mimicked the behavior of such solutions like NASA and DMP, primarily focusing on the inefficient level 0 and level 1s. And that created some sort of problematic, but at the same time, it actually addressed the challenges for the both Oracle and third-party software like Veritas Net Backups and EMC networkers and such. And that allowed them to start at least putting a little bit of efficiency in the sense of the integrated management across the entire enterprise that was including Oracle and service running Oracle. The challenge actually didn't go away, and it actually extrapolated. So, and hence the kind of, some sort of the parallel relevance between the shortcomings of DME and what was happening with the RMN. Because what happens, it hits the wall. So, for example, NetApp had to invent SnapMirror and SnapVault and to avoid the inefficiency of the NDMP. And the same happened with us. The problem was not just inefficiency of the L0, L1s, but also the fact that, number one, the transaction databases should have predicted on the transactional level to start with. And the second problem, that's legacy frameworks do not have any capabilities to really address the challenges backing up SAP and Oracle databases in excess of the 10 terabyte only. So we came up with a recovery appliance, which was obviously the next step of the evolution of the RN backups. And so Mark already touched on the important advantages that's basically competition cannot even touch, because they're still bound by the same shortcomings of the original RMN backups. And next step, obviously integration with Exadata. And so that actually put in play quite a few adjacent use cases. So Marco mentioned things related to the immutability, to the compliance, to the regulated environments. But it also opened up yet another market for us, things related to the server consolidation, things related to the primary workloads management and the migration of the primary workloads to the Exadata platform. So out of nowhere, you actually start looking at the compelling picture where the relevancy of the recovery appliance become much more expandable. So it's not just the basic backup appliance that can be competitive with likes of EMC data domains or net backup appliances, but what is much more important, because it is a purpose-built and specifically tailored to the Oracle and Exadata environment, it becomes the basically front runner for any business critical workloads. Next thing, obviously, evolution. And so the first step was Oracle Clouds. It was a little bit limited in a sense of the use case coverage, because it primarily started competing for the market space, so for the deep archive, such as Amazon Glacier or the deep archive with Azure. So we did exactly the same. So obviously, as you know, that we have pretty robust integration with the archiving tier in the cloud, and we have a lot of customers actually using this type of the deployments. And it's predicated not just on the immutability of the buckets in the cloud, but also in the efficiency of the data transports between the on-prem and the cloud entities. And yet again, that's come by the sheer way of the tailor-made integrated solution between the recovery appliance and the Oracle databases. And another aspect that Marco already mentioned, that we send not just raw data, but we guarantee efficiency in a sense of the compressed data, but also what is really important is the secure store in the cloud entities, which is practically impossible to accomplish with any competitive solution. On the other side, obviously we have OSB. So the secure backup evolution basically just kind of came along, and this solution was primarily built for the full backup of the entire Oracle ecosystem, including file systems and the database itself. And now we have basically additional data paths to promote for the end-to-end solution if necessary. The other aspect is the OSB integration with the cloud entities. And so basically just it's somewhat following the footsteps of the recovery appliance evolution, if I may. And so now basically just a dedication up just in the sense of the overall cloud support and not just for the on-prem end-to-end solution. The one thing that's worth mentioning, hence I'm going to address it a little bit on the following slides, is that we're also going to be targeting to make OSB available in the OCI marketplace. To go a little bit deeper into the roadmap items, and so I'm pretty sure that you guys are familiar with the ongoing developments to make recovery appliances services available within the OCI ecosystem. We actively working on this project. We cannot provide with the specific timelines at this point, but what we can share is that in a sense of the capabilities of the recovery and service in the clouds, it's got to be pretty much identical to what you might see with the on-prem, minus specific things related to the management and to the complete automation. So everything's going to be managed through the OCI UI, which is not going to be looking just exactly the same like VM in a sense. And another thing that we definitely would like to pursue is to have consumers, because recovery appliance in the cloud, that's one thing, and definitely it might be leveraged in a lot of hybrid type of the deployments. But what is much more important is to connect the dots between the core OCI database services with the data protection in the cloud. So the first two partners, which are going to be integrated with the future DBRS, are XSCS and DBCS. So we're going to be focusing on this type of the use cases first and foremost, and later on we're going to be following up with ADB and dedicated, hopefully later this year. So going back to the OSB evolution, so you know that right now we have the new release, so we have OSB 18.102. It's came up with the OCI X to the storage tier that I already mentioned. We support tape to cloud migration, which is like highly desirable. So in a sense, basically replacing tape capacity with the deep archive in the cloud, like everybody else. And so we also improved dramatically performance for the cloud devices using multi-part uploads. The new features which are going to be coming up, you might easily spot up a parity between the features that were delivered with the RA21.1 release that Mark already mentioned. So this cache-up is going to be coming up with identical capabilities to support immutable backup supports and keeps enabled database support, which is highly desirable for the regulated environments. So now we're going to have a complete bulletproof solution for the regulated environments going forward. And in the little bit more distant future, we are going to be delivering block volume cloud storage API integration and new catalog database for the improved performance and scalability. And of course, the thing that I already mentioned on the previous slides, the availability of the cloud deployments with the OCI marketplace. So just to show what is coming up in a sense of the availability of the collateral and in other events. So we are going to have another session where we're going to be tackling ransomware and cyber attacks overall. Mark mentioned that we have significant feature sets that target specifically this hot market space. And I think it might be extremely useful just to catch up on what we can offer, because we do believe that we actually have extremely compelling overall solution, not just on the cyber vault configuration for the recovery appliances, but also the whole bundle related to the ransomware and cyber attack protection in a sense of the verification, in the sense of the secure access, in the sense of the immutability, in the sense of the account management, which might be extremely attractive to the enterprises experiencing this type of the challenge. And the second one, we're going to be attending and being a part of the EMEA Cloud at Customer Summit on March 2nd. And so we're going to be primarily focusing on the user stories related to the XSC and RA integrated solution. And with that, that's a wrap. And I'm going to be switching to the Q&As if we have something.
Thanks, Alex, for that. I did post the registration links for the March 1st ransomware protection webinar and for the March 2nd Cloud Customer Summit session. So please look there for more info. Not seeing any questions. There were some specific questions about Recovery Appliance 21.1 software, compatibility with Enterprise Manager and upgrades. So I did address those on the chat. But just to recap, that is right. With RA 21.1, if you are upgrading from a prior Recovery Appliance version, none of the immutability or new users are configured for you automatically. Everything stays the same with the RA sys and with OS users privileges. If you install a new Recovery Appliance 21.1 configuration, then yes, those users, you'll be asked during install to create those users, and we will disable root and SSH access at the end of the install. Okay, so when you upgrade, you can continue using Enterprise Manager 13.4. We recommend RU14. We do long term want customers to move to EM 13.5, which is the next major release, and RU4 is the release update for EM that will work with the new 21.1 named admin users model. So please look to that as well. All right. Not seeing any hands up.
There was a question. There was a question in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Should I request Oracle Platinum?
Right. Okay. So just saw that too. So Oracle Platinum has their own certified versions for Recovery Appliance. I don't know the certification window that they have, because when we release, then they start their certification. We always recommend the latest release posted on the support note, and that's what we would advise to Platinum to do. So I think it's Pradeep. If you need to reach us about that, you could do that as well if you're Oracle internal, or if you put a question on our webinar, Ask Tom webinar question and answer area, then we can get back to you there too. But everyone should be using the latest release posted on that support note. And I'll paste that support note too for you so everyone can see it in a second. Okay. I don't see anything else, and we can give a little time back to everyone. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Marco and Alex, for a great presentation. We hope to see you at our next office hour session.